All right, Monk, I got your message, and I feel like I should leave you a little message of what's been going on. So I'm at the Dead Sea here. I just want to show you. There's the Dead Sea. And I don't know if you can see, but across the way, the mountains here, that's Jordan. And it's just desert out here. And yeah, I'm going to tell you the story about the Dead Sea here because I think it'll help you ground down back into your experience. I'm just going to get into the shade. It's 100 and some degrees out here. So, my journey to Israel brought me here through you, through the retreat. And at the retreat, I started to buzz. I think I'm still buzzing. I don't know how many years ago that was, maybe 7 years ago, 6 years ago. And I got to Israel, and I didn't know why, but quite often I was called to the Dead Sea here. And I think it took me 6 or 7 years to see what I could see. And I just had a realization of what's been happening, because I realized the Dead Sea was connected to you. So as I started coming here, I realized I came here always in some special mindset. I was very clear on what I was doing, and just had these different awarenesses. And it grew upon me. And every time I would come to the Dead Sea and I would do these things that I was doing, you would go through your boom phase or your snap phase. It was so clear. I really realized that every time I'd come to the Dead Sea, it would snap you somehow. And I just saw it through watching on Facebook, but I realized the Dead Sea and you and my journey were somehow connected. And for years I kept coming to the Dead Sea, and I kept, my awareness kept growing of what it is. And now, the way that I see the Dead Sea is that this is the source, this is the information field of the world. All of the water of the world flows to the Dead Sea. And it's actually so thick that it's like a crystal. So it's thicker than normal water. And even around here, like you look on the ground, for example, it's all just crystals of salt all through here, all this ground. It's almost hard to walk with your bare feet, but it's just like a big crystal here. And I realized it was the information field of the world, and I just realized what's been going on. So as I came here, I've always been working with the Dead Sea, with the water of the sea itself. And I started making alchemy from it. And I started making pendants. And I'm going to send you one. I just need your address because I feel like it'll help ground you down. And I started working with this water. And every time I would come to this water, I realized that I was accessing this field of information. It's just an illusion, but it's my illusion. And I see it like this. So I would come here, I would access this field of information, and then I would go away, and I'd come back a couple months later, I'd just be called back. I'd always find myself here on weird days. And every time I access this field of information, you would go off into the higher realms and do your work. And then I didn't come here for quite a while. And then I did come again after a year or so, or whatever it was. And then that's when you started going into the realms again and doing your work up there. And this time, I've been called to a new set to come to the Salt Sea. And this is where I think it comes down to you. So maybe the last month or so, I started coming here. Instead of working with the Salt Sea, I began working with the fresh water that flows into the Salt Sea. There's a little spring just down the way here where I'm camping. It's a little spring where fresh water comes out, and you can bathe in it. It's just small, but you can clean the salt water off because it's really salty and harsh here. So I started working with this fresh water now. And what I realized was that this source field of information, every time I would access it here in the physical, you would access it in the astral, or whatever realm you want to call it. And you would go into that source field of information, and that's where you would have your experiences. And they were always intense because there's so much information there. And what I've seen, though, is that the Salt Sea, in the reality that I see, all of the fresh water that flows into it has been stopped. So usually the Jordan River flows into it in the north, and then it flows out down into the Red Sea in the south. But they've closed it all off over the years. and not really much fresh water at all flows into the Dead Sea anymore. And this little spring here is one of the only springs. There's maybe a handful of them along the way. But I realized that fresh water was the dream realm. This is the realm of the Dead Sea, is this realm of information, and the fresh water flowing into it is like the new dreams that flow in and out of this field of information. And this fresh water somehow represents the dream realm. And this is where I feel like I'm going with you right now. So I started working, I made a device, because I always like making little devices just to help me remember. So I made a little device and I put it in the fresh water here a week or so ago. And what I noticed here, I just came back and now the water is starting to come up from the ground. I'm about 100 meters up from the sea here, maybe a little bit more. Just in some shade here with the trees. And all the way down, 100, 150 meters up from the water is actually starting to come up from the ground, and it's muddy all through here, which is crazy. I don't know where this water is coming from, but the whole area is full of sinkholes too. So the water is starting to flow, and this is what I feel like I'm coming to with you. I feel like you've been in that source field of information. You had your battle, and it was very real, and it was well done. And now I feel like that story is almost too much for people. I see the people here. I'm having a hard time connecting. These people are just not aware. But I feel like they have to become aware. So I feel like this journey of mine relates to yours, because I feel like right now, the journey that you've made into this field and the journey that I'm working with in this field, I feel like now is time to get into the dream realm of people. Because the stories of what have happened and the information in your story of what's happened is almost unbelievable to people. And I feel like I see it. You're out there, you're telling your story because it's really exciting. But every time I check in, there's not so many people following. And I feel like the story is very, it's too much for people right now. They just don't understand it. And I feel like these stories have to start coming in through the dream realm. And you know how to do that. And I feel like somehow now we are going to tap people's dream realm into this source of information, because it's been blocked for a long time. The water hasn't flowed into the Dead Sea. But now it's starting to flow again. And I feel like that's the sign that the information from this field is about to flow out into the dream realm again. And I feel like people, in order for them to accept it, they'll have to see it in the dream somehow, for them to accept it in the reality. Because many of these things that you've been through are too intense for people, and they don't understand them yet. So this is my suggestion right now, and it's up to you. But I feel like right now, if you were to focus on sharing your stories and sharing your information in the dream realm with the world that you have created, it will make it easier to translate it into the density. And if in the density, in the physical realm, you continue to start building your energy workshops again, because they're amazing, brother. I don't think you realize how much the world needs this, and focus on this realm that people can tap into without having access to all this information yet, this source field of information. All of these people that don't have access to that source field of information, that can't accept these stories, they're accepting energy work, and you're brilliant at it, and it's pushing their minds and it's expanding their awareness so that they can tap into this source field of information. So I feel like right now, if you can just keep on grounding down and just start focusing whenever you feel ready on doing the energy work and getting the classes going and sharing the information through that medium in the physical reality, and then starting to share your experiences more in the dream reality, I think that it'll be accepted, and I think that's where they'll flow into the density from, into the physical density from. So I think that is what I wanted to say, and yes, we can talk again whenever you like, bro. I'm here for a few days now. Well, what a sight. I'll just give you another trip here. Look at this. It's so fucking hot out here. There's the Dead Sea in Jordan. Campfire from last night. The crazy sun. I don't know if you can see the hills in Jordan and desert in Israel behind me here. And yeah, so I'm here for a few days. Enjoy. This message is just for you, brother, and we'll talk soon.